Hello everybody, you're watching 2 Horsepower. Today we have a comparative test of 2 compact crossovers, and we start with the exterior of these cars. As for me, no one has ever chosen Subaru because it's beautiful. No, Subaru can be fast and Subaru can be reliable, Subaru can be passable. And in case of Impreza 3.5 Colin McRae, Subaru can be charismatic. But as for Mazda, the situation is the opposite. Mazda very often is chosen because it's beautiful, but naturally today, in our test, we're comparing not only the appearance of these cars and not only a complete set of prices, no, today we check these cars by the full program. Here's the car we have. It's not flashy, and when I look at these shaggy discs, I really like them. It's bright. It reminds me of 80s movies about ninjas, real Japanese shurikens. By the way, Mazda also has a mighty lining of plastic on the wheels and the sides of the doors, because of what many viewers criticize Mazda CX-30, and somewhere I agree with them, because Mazda created for love, not to conquer any off-road. Therefore, here it would be possible to make really some version where these overlays from plastic will be painted at least in color of the body. And here on Subaru XV all looks very organic, because here that car, lack of roads, at least easy, just goes out. Of course, an important story of any crossover is the luggage compartment. In the Mazda CX-30, in the top configuration, all looks very decent. First, you have an electric-driven trunk door. And secondly, this same trunk door you can also close by electric drive. We have a button, and thirdly, the minimum size of the trunk of Mazda CX-30, depending on the drive system, is either 422 or 430 liters. And as I understand, 430 liters is possible when we have a 4-wheel drive. As for the Subaru XV Hybrid, firstly, there is no electric-driven trunk door. Secondly, the trunk has a capacity of 330 liters. Yeah, right, because we have an e-Boxer hybrid and we have a battery installed here. The slalom is a great exercise to look at the roll of the car. Subaru definitely rolls, but it doesn't prevent it from keeping its trajectory. The car does not drift and does not scatter on this car. You can pass a slalom very excitably. The result is 11:36. The Mazda is completely different. It rolls slightly, literally draws a snake. But I have a feeling that I'm slower in the Mazda. The result is 11.8. In terms of numbers, the 0.4 seconds gap is pure nothing. But in distance, it's a whole body, and that's a lot. So what conclusions did I draw? On the Subaru, I entered the slalom with more speed, while maintaining the trajectory. On Mazda, the trajectory is the same, but from the start I got a little slower, and I cannot change anything. The interior of the XV is not rich, it's smart. We have leather seats, we have torpedoes, these same seats are stitched with blue thread, I would even say rally blue thread. Although, when you look at the amount of this leather, sometimes it seems that it was given out on coupons at the Subaru factory, because the competitors have more of it on the torpedoes and more of it on the door cards. If the Subaru's interior is elegant, the Mazda's interior is almost premium. There is much less ordinary plastic and nobody has economized on leather and Alcantara. Everything is laconic, restrained and very elegant. The absence of sensor buttons and the presence of usual physical ones with proper feedback are very pleasing. As for the multimedia system, here Subaru looks much more preferable than many Japanese, even premium brands. If, for example, to compare with Infiniti, Subaru has better. Here you can find conditionally 3 monitors. The first, a large with a good picture on the central console. The second, above on the torpedo, on the horizon line. The third is a small monitor on board computer, which is on the dashboard. The dashboard itself is analog, but it's clear that in Subaru it does not upset anyone. At first, of course, I did not understand why this monitor on the horizon line should not be transmitted to this big monitor of the multimedia system, but then, when I started switching everything, I understood that, for example, here we have navigation or we control music, and here we have all the useful things. For example, a sign recognition, or how your hybrid system works, or what safety system are implemented now, or what degree the car is, and where the torque is transferred here, and we even have oil temperature, and for Subaru it's also very important. I don't quite understand why they have separated the rear view camera and the camera mounted at the front of the radiator. The reverse picture is shown on the big monitor and the picture of in-run is shown on a small rectangular monitor. Why not to combine all these pictures in one monitor?
Почему это все не совмещено на одном большом, чтобы отличаться?
Subaru's multimedia is really better than Infiniti's, but Mazda is almost an example of the class. If we are talking about control pack, camera and big, high-quality monitor. By and large, only Volkswagen, Peugeot and Citroën can struggle with it. Can Mazda resist in this discipline with Subaru? From the point of view of Europeans, probably not, because Mazda uses a control system similar to BMW and Audi. And Subaru is partially a hostage to the conservative US market. However, I'm very happy that both cars offer Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Despite decent suspension travel, the XV starts well. The car is stable at 55 km per hour and absolutely predictable at 60 and 65. The car rolls, but the stability system is ready and corrects possible skidding. At 70 km per hour, I already distinctly understand that the car starts to skid, and here I have to be careful. I do not manage to overcome the 75 km per hour mark. Mazda is shifting in a different way. It has less roll and the speed of 55-60 km per hour is just to warm up. As well as for Subaru, but at 65 the car has to settle down and work hard to keep on the trajectory. At 70 km per hour the rolls appear, but they're not smooth. Suspension folds suddenly and just as suddenly shoots on the opposite direction. At least so it seems inside the car, but the mark of 70 I got over and almost skipped 75. The chip is knocked down, but shifted. The second attempt is successful in every way. It seems that at higher speeds, Mazda, suspension and electronics begin to understand each other better. Suspension is multi-linked. It seems to me that it's little wobbly. It means that the car is ready to lack of roads, and it means that this suspension is absolutely not afraid of almost any bumps, because this Subaru has simply genius power capacity. In general, I believe that if you evaluate Subaru's suspension from the standpoint of power capacity, it is the best, and even Toyota sometimes falls short. But in fact, it's all good, and on the background of Europeans, it is simply magical in both Subaru and Toyota. Nothing here makes noise, there is no acoustic discomfort, everything is good. Noise insulation, of course, there is no limit to perfection, but in this class I think the XV is not in last position. Summarizing the difference in the suspension of Mazda CX-30 rear beam, the Subaru multi-linkage. Suspension settings are fundamentally different. The Mazda suspension is quite rigid and configured for a good asphalt. On our holes is sometimes not comfortable, although it does not come to the situation of horror. The Subaru suspension is definitely more energy consuming. It is ready for country roads and pits with depth of 10 cm, and here you should think very carefully for what operating conditions choose a car for yourself. We're braking at 60 km per hour, braking on winter tires. Mazda has 215/55 R18 wheels, and it's a cool Michelin Pilot Alpine 5. Subaru has 225/55 R18 Michelin X-Ice Snow. We have a unique case, almost the same size and the same manufacturer. As they say, there is no better tire than a bear. It remains to understand what kind of tire and what is with the brakes of the competitors. The best braking of Mazda 11 meters 66 centimeters, worst result 12 meters 15 centimeters. Arithmetic average 11 meters 83 centimeters. Best braking of Subaru 11 meters, worst result 12.20. Arithmetic average 11.71. Everything is very close, but the Subaru brakes 12 centimeters earlier. We have the e-Boxer hybrid, the so-called mild hybrid, but not so for one simple reason. We have here a 2-liter petrol Boxer engine, 150 horsepower and 194 newtons of torque. We have here a CVT gearbox, and we have pedals which imitate gear shifting, and also in this CVT there is an electric motor, and there in the trunk we have a 12.5 kilowatt battery. So we have petrol motor with 150 horsepower and 194 newtons of torque, and also an electric motor which adds you 16 horsepower or something like that and plus of 66 newton meters. How does it all work? There is really no need to be frightened. You don't have to push any extra buttons because it's a self-charging hybrid and because everything works in automatic mode. If you drive smoothly, you can go up to 40 km per hour on pure electric power, and you can drive up to 2 km. If you start sharply, the electric motor gives all of its power. The synergy we have gasoline engine gives power, and our electric motor gives power, and the car accelerates to 100 km per hour in 10.7 seconds. By the way, in our test, the best acceleration of Subaru is 10.08. As for consumption on the highway with cruise control at 90 km per hour is 5.9 liters at 138.6. In urban mode, I got 7.3 liters. What the Mazda can answer? It has a 2-liter atmospheric gasoline engine with 150 horsepower and 213 newtons of torque. The transmission is a 6-speed automatic. The Mazda isn't easy, either it's a mild hybrid with a powerful starter alternator, brake energy recovery system and a very small lithium-ion battery. The important difference with the Subaru, the Mazda has no electric motor, it cannot go on pure electric power and it has a smaller battery. At the same time, Mazda accelerates to 100 km per hour in 10.1 seconds. The consumption at 90, 5.8 liters, at 130, 9.1 liters. In the city turned out 7.88 liters. Both cars are equipped with all-wheel drive system. Only for Subaru it is a fetish, one of competitive advantages and real pride, named symmetric all-wheel drive, which many times proved the efficiency in the hottest conditions, even an ordinary, seemingly city crossover. The all-wheel drive from Mazda is a story of stable behavior on unstable covering and possibility to drive out of the snow at the supermarket parking lot. On our stance, Mazda repeatedly gave up on the exercise when only one back wheel had traction. Usually all ended with overheated clutch, but not this time. This time the Mazda did well and almost from the first time. As for the Subaru XV, it looks like our stands are just a boring warm-up before a real off-road adventure. Subaru owners love them and often practice them in real wilderness and off-road conditions. The car handles all of our rollers very reliably and by wide margin and in any configuration. Well, the rear seats of Mazda CX-30. It's obvious when person almost 2 meter tall sits in front of you, the second person, almost 2 meter tall, is trying to get into the back seat of this car. It's like we're not talking about maximum comfort. Nevertheless, although my knees are resting on the driver's seat back, but here these backs are soft, so I have some extra space. Most importantly, my knees are not resting against some plastic. There is also a footwell under the seat, is very important. And in principle, yes, definitely, I put my head up against the roof. We have a coupe-like SUV, and so the roof, I put my head up. And here I have to sit with my head slightly down, because there are no other options. If you're 1 meter 85 centimeters tall, you probably won't have any problems on these back seats. We have an armrest, there are no USB ports for rear passengers, unfortunately, and we have no heated back seats. So, there is almost nothing here except for this nice diode lighting. Let's go to Subaru now. Well, there is definitely more space for legs. I do not put my knees on the seats, we do not have such an upright backrest on the back row, and so I sit a little more comfortable here. There is also a special place on the roof for my head, but I still put my head in this roof. But it's good that there is a space, because if there wasn't, I would be sitting inside this car even more of a fetus benefit than I do in Mazda CX-30. No USB ports, no ventilation ducts, air ducts under the seats, no seat heating, and we have also an armrest with 2 cup holders. In general, in terms of asceticism and poverty, and the Mazda CX-30 and Subaru XV in principle is at the same level. By the way, there is back seat illumination here too, but it's not diode. So the Mazda wins. A little, but wins. But here we have rear seats with perforated leather and stitched with a beautiful thread. This time we have not been lazy to check the car safety systems that are able to prevent collision with cars at speeds up to 30 km per hour. At the same time, we already know for sure that Mazda CX-30 with the system's smart city brake support easily stops in front of the car ahead. The Subaru XV also has a pre-braking system and the entire safety unit called EyeSight. Using images from two cameras on the windshield, the car is able to identify a car, pedestrian, bicycle or motorcycle. According to Subaru representatives, this system has reduced the accident rate of models in Japan by 61%. During our test, the XV also proved the efficiency of its system, easily identifying the car in front and applying emergency braking. This so impressed our immature minds that we decided to complicate the task. The cars are driving one after the other. Suddenly, the car in front changes lines and we see a stationary car in front. For many people, this situation is very familiar. And yes, neither Mazda nor Subaru were ready for such a turn of events, although they honestly gave audible signals and issued text messages on the dashboards. For a live driver, that's a help too, but I wish it would have worked like the S-Class, but at prices, of course, Subaru and Mazda. Talking about prices, Mazda CX-30 with a 2-liter gasoline engine and the all-wheel drive in the top premium configuration costs 955,000 hryvnia. Subaru XV e-Boxer with an all-wheel drive costs 1,068,000 hryvnia. Thus, Subaru is more expensive by 116,000 hryvnias. If to speak about the most accessible version, not hybrid, XV with a 2-liter atmospheric engine and all-wheel drive system in a complete set, costs 885,000 hryvnia. The most accessible CX-30 with a front-wheel drive and a complete set style costs 764,000 hryvnia. I think that today we had very interesting comparative tests, and not only because crossovers take more than 75% of Ukrainian market. No, today we have compared seemingly two Japanese cars, but it turned out that they are very different. Mazda CX-30 is a modern fashionable Japanese. And Subaru XV is, for me, it is, deep Japanese traditions and deep Japanese traditions of cars building. Who wins today? But I think that today just audiences of these two cars absolutely do not overlap. Because Mazda CX-30 is a demonstration that you have a very beautiful car, this is a demonstration that you have a very fashionable car, and this is a demonstration that you have an interior, in principle like a BMW as a premium car, while you basically own a mass brand. As for the Subaru XV, it's certainly a performance story. It's a feature story and a story of what a car can really do.